Hey everyone, friends. Today I'll tell you about one of the design quirks of the famous MP40 submachine gun, the weapon people often call the Schmeisser. Quick note, I use that nickname purely for fun. The MP40 and its earlier relative, the MP38, were designed by German engineer Heinrich Wöllmer. Still, most people know the gun as the Schmeisser. One reason for that nickname is the factory stamp on the metal magazine. The magazine was actually invented and patented by another German designer, Hugo Schmeisser, and his name ended up stuck to the weapon. Let's start with a little history. The MP38 was developed in Germany in the late 1930s. MP stands for Mash and Pistole, literally machine pistol, and 38 marks the year it was adopted. For its time, the MP38 was very advanced, a simple, relatively reliable design that passed tough reliability trials before service. In 1938, it was adopted as a personal weapon for officers, NCOs, and some specialist units. Its performance was impressive for the era. Blowback action about 600 rounds per minute, muzzle velocity around 350 meters per second, effective range roughly 200 m, and it used a 9*19 millimeters parabellum cartridge. Fun fact, versions of this weapon were still spotted even in 21st century conflicts. Of course, Wöllmer's design had flaws, and practical use led to several changes. The end result being the MP40. Engineers focused especially on the magazine and receiver, adding reinforcing ribs. But the magazine stayed a weak point. Instructions emphasized that the weapon should be gripped by the receiver near the magazine, not by the magazine itself. If soldiers held the gun by the magazine, it could cause feeding delays or even breakages. There was another problem. The magazine spring was made from fairly cheap material. If the 32-round magazine was fully loaded and carried for a long time, the spring could lose tension. Over time, that might mean a round wouldn't feed when you needed it most. Knowing this, experienced German soldiers rarely loaded a magazine to its full 32 rounds. Usually, they topped off to around 30 rounds or less, depending on combat conditions. By the way, this practice of not fully loading magazines to preserve spring life is still used today, but that's a topic for another video. So, did you know about this quirk of Wöllmer's W gun?